Okay. So, Connor, say it again. What is preventative maintenance?
It's something you pay for so that you don't have to deal with the problem later down the road.
Right. It's something that you basically pay for to make sure that you don't have to deal with a problem down the road. Can anybody give an example of preventative maintenance? Yeah? Sorry?
Let's say changing your oil.
Changing your oil. If you're, go ahead.
Because when you don't do that, then everything else doesn't go so well.
Yeah, things don't work.
Very expensive.
Very expensive. If you actually run out of oil or your oil becomes too dirty in your car, your engine will stop working. And not just stop until you put more oil in it, like it's done. Okay? So, and if you go into a mechanic and you're like, what needs to be done on my car? And they say, you need a new engine, that is expensive. That's pretty much the most expensive thing that could possibly happen. You're gonna pay for almost the value of your car in getting an engine, depending on how old your car is. But if you've got like an old car that's worth like $7,000 and you need a new engine, expect to pay like 5 or 6 to get that engine, like not fixed, replaced. That's a different. Replacing something on an engine is very different than replacing the engine. That's a very, very different. So, preventative maintenance is stuff like getting your oil changed. What else? Connor.
Would that be like rotating your tires?
Mm-hmm. Rotating your tires is a good thing. Rotating your tires, what that does is it just evens out the wear on your tires. So really it just makes it so you can use your tires for longer. But if you don't rotate your tires, it's not like your tires are going to explode, right? But it is a good thing to do because then you can keep your tires for longer and use them well. Anybody know the rule about when you need to change your tires?
Isn't it like once you can't see like something on your tires or something like that?
Yeah?
Once you start seeing them lines come through, you
The
should
metal,
probably
oh
take it.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's extreme. Please do not wait until you see the metal coming out of your tires. Grace?
There's a wear line built into some tires, and once it gets to that line,
There is. There's a wear line built into some tires. A lot of tires don't have that though, especially if you have an older vehicle. The treads on the tire should be like a certain amount deep. My dad always taught me that if you take a penny and stick it in the tread of your car, that the tread should be going like at least half past like Abe Lincoln's face. And if it's not, then that's a problem.
I think one of the teachers this year told us that. I don't remember it.
Zinc, probably.
But yeah, what's the problem if you have like bald tires? By bald, I mean that there's just no treads left. Yeah.
You actually want that because you can do burnouts better than.
Okay, so nope.
Drifting.
Answer is no, you don't want that. We're not concerned about doing awesome things in parking lots. Right now, let's focus on staying alive. Alive is what we're going for. I'm not calling you on you again, Colin. Grace.
you don't have as much traction and you can go off the road a lot easier.
Right, which is a problem when you live where?
In Minnesota with rain.
Snow. Alaska.
Sweet.
You think Minnesota's the place that gets,
I'm from-
Minnesota, the rainiest place in the world.
Hey, hydroplaning is a real
Hydroplaning is a real thing, but also it's really important in snow. And we have a lot of that, okay? So especially before, that's a good time to check and see if you need new tires, and they actually have a lot of sales also then, is if you check in early or late fall, look at the tread on your tires. How often do you usually need to buy new tires?
Isn't it like 3 years? Or a year?
It depends on miles.
It depends on miles, you're right, it absolutely depends on miles. For me, it's usually about 4 years. Usually after about 2 years, I get my tires rotated. It is a really good thing to kind of understand the basics of what your mechanic is doing. Unless you are a very, very obnoxious person, which some of you are, but you'll grow out of it, probably. But unless you're a very, very obnoxious person, if you're at a mechanic, it doesn't usually, unless they're doing something very complex, if you ask them questions about what they're doing. I'm not talking about standing over their shoulder and watching them and going, what are you doing now? But, asking, don't just say, I need preventative maintenance on my car. And they say, that'll be $1,500. And you say, okay, What are they doing? Like, what are you changing? How often does that need to happen? Those kind of questions. And getting a second opinion is also a good thing. So, why do you think that different cars have different amounts for preventative maintenance? Why wouldn't they all have the same amount, Tyler?
Like, the newer they are, the more expensive they are.
That's true, but not always. Anybody else got a good reason? That's mostly true, though. Sawyer?
Just like the prices on the different things they might need are gonna be different.
Yeah. But there's also specific things that are almost always more expensive, yeah?
Stupid engineers put stupid parts in stupid places and you can't reach them.
Whew,
Later, Bill.
you're in a great mood today. And that is actually kind of true, despite all this stupid talk. But yeah, they do put things in places where you can't reach them, sometimes specifically, so you have to go to a place to get it fixed. Okay, the point is that if you've got certain types of vehicles, it's going to be more expensive to get things fixed. Okay, if your family owns a real big truck compared to your family owning a little tiny compact car, your wheels, your tires will be more expensive for a big truck. Like, that's just because they're bigger wheels, more traction, they need to hold more weight, that kind of thing. Different tires are for different kinds of vehicles, and not like, it's more about weight than anything else. Okay, water pump, alternator, brake pads, starter, these are things that could go wrong. And when they, this is something that you want to do pretty regularly, for that preventative maintenance stuff. Brake pads is something that you also want to take care of pretty regularly. How do you know if your brake pads are starting to go? And if your answer is when you can't use your brakes anymore, bad answer. Yep.
When you hear screeching.
That is actually, that's true. They make on brake pads, so brake pads look like a lot, well, I guess there's different kinds of brake pads, but in a lot of brake pads, it's kind of like on either side of your wheel, and they almost like press together on either side of your wheel to like slow down, make friction, right, and stop your wheel. And on the brake pads, there are these like really thick pads that are very, very made out of some intense material, and underneath the pad, they actually have these metal parts that stick up into the pad, so they start hitting metal on metal, and you start hearing, have you heard people like when they're, not when they're like screeching to a halt, but when they're just slowing down an intersection, you'll hear occasionally somebody be like, ee, you know, like it kind of squeals a little bit, and that's because they need their brake pads looked at. If you ignore that sound for a long time, then your brakes could give out, and that's a huge problem.
Especially on the highway.
That's like death. Okay? It is very unlikely that the time your brake pad gives out is when you're casually backing out of your driveway and nothing happens. You don't want that to happen to you. Brake pads are not ridiculously expensive, but the moment you start hearing that, that's when you need to know. Also, if you know where your brake pads are, you can actually get down on your hands and knees and look and see how thick they are.